So hi, New York. Thanks for having me here today. I hope you're enjoying your conference. So we're here today to talk about retargeting. So companies like Uber, eBay, Amazon, Wish, and many, many more, they're all using retargeting as part of their growth strategy. And we're actually helping them do that. And we're going to share today some insights as to why they decided to switch to ad retargeting, and some pragmatic advice as to how to increase ROI from retargeting as well. There you go. So if we go back in the day, a few years ago, those companies they've all asked themselves the question: are we doing enough? Is install really the metric we want to look at? Is click-through rate, is retention, is everything, does that matter? Or should we go further and really see how we can increase LTV and how we can create a custom relationship with every single user we have? So they started digging, and they realized that actually they can do a lot more on what happens after the install, once somebody installed. And they can do a lot more when it comes to not buying installed, but buying actually users and actually moving those installs to users, to customers, to regular customers. So we're going to share today insights on $55 million spent last year and more than 35 billion data points collected. I'm sorry for the ticker. So retargeting, it's a buzzword. We hear a lot about it. Who can actually do retargeting? So before even thinking about retargeting, I want to make sure that I address two audiences today. One, you're in the audience, you're running user acquisition, but you're not running retargeting. So we'll see how retargeting helps you increase your ROI. Two, if you're running user acquisition, you're already running retargeting for your mobile app, we're going to see how these companies have actually increased their ROI, and we're going to share those strategies with you. So before you even think about retargeting, there's three things you should have, and that's a must-have. The first one is tracking partner. That's obvious, but not tracking partner to track installs. I'm talking tracking partner to actually measure every single event that's happening in your app and sending that to the tracking partner, whether that's a sign-up, a credit card added, a tutorial completed, a purchase, add to cart, any single event that you can add and send it to the tracking partner, you'll need to do that before you even think about retargeting. The second thing you need is deep linking. So deep linking is essentially what happens when I see an ad for hotels.com and I see a hotel in Paris that I love. I click on that ad. And deep linking is what's going to happen when I click on the ad. It opens the app at the same hotel in Paris, and I can book it in a click. So you need deep linking in order to actually drive successful retargeting strategies. The third thing you need is volume, and by volume I mean a volume of users. So you can't run retargeting if you have a few thousand users, 10,000 users, but I think most here in the audience are not at that stage. They're further in scale. So you also don't need 100 million users to do that. So often I hear from advertisers, oh yes, I heard about retargeting, but we don't have enough volume. I'm like, all right, how many users do you have? Well, we have 25 million users. All right, there should be more than enough actually to start. So the threshold is roughly 1 million monthly actives. If you have more than 1 million monthly actives on your mobile app today, and you're not running retargeting, please give me 10 minutes of your attention. So let's dive right in. The first thing, and that's really one of the most important things you want to do, is we're going to talk about cohorts. So cohorts is basically a bucket of users that are put together based on what they did in the app. So one cohort could be, I sign up for Uber, but I don't order a ride. So I'm in the bucket, signed up, but haven't ordered. Another bucket could be, I actually signed up for Uber, I ordered a ride, but I did not order in the past 30 days. That's another bucket. And so your cohort is going to make or break your retargeting strategy. So you need to do a few things. First of all, you need to define custom cohorts, not standardized cohorts, not using your friends' cohorts, not using another app's cohorts. You need to use your own cohorts because Every single app is different, and we need to understand, and you need to understand, your triggers specific to your app. So custom cohorts is extremely important. The second thing, and that's really, I feel, where some advertisers are not necessarily doing as much as they should, is splitting the cohorts often enough. So splitting a cohort means assuming you have a cohort of users that have purchased in the last year. That's obviously not good enough. You want to split that into maybe users that purchased in the last 6 months and then the 6 months before that. But then you want to split that again. Maybe 6 months is still too high. And you want to do that and keep doing this until you have enough granularity to actually be able to define a specific goal to every segment. So splitting your cohorts, it takes time, but it's extremely important. Another thing I mentioned about cohorts, and that's funny because a lot of advertisers don't realize that. Sometimes advertisers have great cohorts set up for what's happening in the app. But everything that's happening in the ad space, they're not factoring in. So let me give you an example. If I'm Uber and I'm displaying 3 times a certain ad to a user, and then I'm displaying another ad to that user, I need to factor that in my cohorts. And usually that's where advertisers are not necessarily doing their job. So splitting your cohorts, custom cohorts, and factoring in the ads, that's extremely important. So now that we have cohorts, the second thing that we need to do is so DCO, dynamic creative optimization. So it's a complex word. Sorry, it's a complex word for basically saying that the creative is going to be optimizing based on the best combination possible. So let me give you a simple example. Let's say you have an ad with a call to action, a header, and a footer, and your logo. So the call to action can be blue, red, yellow, whatever. Header, same thing, blue, red, yellow, and the footer can be half size, full size. And so DCO is going to help you find the best combination of those elements. So maybe the best combination is a green button with the red header with half the footer and your logo in the middle. But DCO doesn't stop there. So DCO is what helps you get a personalized message to every single user based on what they did in the app and based on outside context. So outside context means we're really lucky today because it's raining in New York, so potentially we could do an ad for showcasing some raindrops or some clouds. That's what's going to draw, things like that are going to draw your users' attention. What they did in the app, so if I open the eBay app and I look at a BMW, and I get retargeted by eBay, well, they better show me that same BMW car or similar products in order to drive sort of a successful retargeting strategy. So the past product views, the past interaction I have with the app, everything combined in a creative optimization strategy is really what's going to increase your performance for retargeting campaigns. Now the third thing, we have cohorts where we have a dynamically creative optimized creative, but now we actually need to make sure that the user actually sees the creative and actually enjoys it. So it's great to personalize it, but we need to have some sort of either a rich media creative or interactive creative, but or even an elegant creative. So here I have, on the left, just a simple, I didn't even go interactive and rich media. I wanted to keep it simple today. On the right, I have a House of Cards ad. It's pretty straightforward. Kevin Spacey, everybody knows the show. And it speaks volume to the audience. On the right, I didn't modify the size. I didn't modify anything. That's a screenshot. That's an actual screenshot that was basically taken from an iPhone. The ad is about a third, let's say 2/3 of the size of the screen. It's not really clear what's on there. So you can have as much of a personalized message as you want. The ad on the left, on the right for you, on the right is definitely not engaging enough to be really increasing your performance. So I think that's where I'm really baffled, because when you talk to a user acquisition manager or a marketing manager, and they're running user acquisition and retargeting, they have great creatives for user acquisition. They invest in rich media. They do playables. They do interactive. And they really craft a whole creative strategy. And then you talk to that same person, not even the same company, the same person who's running the retargeting on top. And they're going with static banners and static interstitials and stuff like that. So I started digging because it felt weird to me that phenomenon was happening. And actually, it's not I was blaming the advertisers. It's not the advertisers' fault. It's actually the partner's fault. So usually, retargeting partners are coming from a data backend sort of approach. So they're focusing a lot on we're able to target successfully. We have a huge infrastructure. We're scalable. And that creative part was never really a piece of the equation. But it has been proven over and over that engaging rich media creatives actually bring an uplift, not only in front net, so not only on high-level metrics like click-through rate and install rate, but on actual post-install quality. Because users are feeling they're getting a real preview of what they're going to install, and therefore retention is higher, LTV is higher, and so on. So now we have a cohorted strategy. We have DCO. Your user is actually engaging with the creative. Now we need to make sure that you actually get enough moments to engage with that user. So for user acquisition, the scale only matters if you want a million installs per day. For retargeting, even if you're running at small scale, your retargeting partners should have a huge reach, not only in terms of volume, but in terms of number of different apps that they're running against. You basically want to take advantage of every single opportunity to chat with your user, to engage with your user. And so if it's 7 a.m. in the morning on a newspaper, or if it's 10 p.m. at night on a sports site, it doesn't matter. You should be able to engage with them at every single stage and really identify the great leverages that you have to optimize your strategy. So the last thing, and I'll try to keep it short, and then we can talk about a little deeper later on. But the last thing I want to mention is what we call the triple win retargeting. So if you successfully implement a retargeting strategy and you successfully put that at scale, 3 things are going to happen, and you're going to have 3 wins. Actually, you're going to have 2, and somebody else is going to have 1. So you're going to have a win because you're actually converting an install to an actual customer, somebody who spends money regularly, or engages with your app. If you don't have a monetization strategy, somebody who engages with your app, opens your app daily, really shares content with their friends, and so on. The second thing that happens is that you actually get to know your users, not only from what they're doing in your app, but what's happening in the ad experience. So that is it's just phenomenal what this brings to the table, because if you have a CRM with every single IDFA, every single user and what they're doing, well, you're able to factor in what they're doing in the ads experience. Maybe they're in my eBay example, if I get retargeted by eBay for the BMW I was looking for, and I also look at the Porsche that they sort of put on the side, I can't really afford a Porsche right now, but at least I'm going to be able to see, all right, I like this car. eBay is going to understand that I'm potentially interested in this car, and that's what I want to get from a retargeting experience. I want to be able, as a partner, I want to be able to fill eBay CRM, and eBay can actually integrate that into their roadmap and say, okay, well, into their CRM and say, well, this user actually, he searched for a BMW, but from what we saw in the ad experience, he actually interacted a lot with that Mercedes, that Porsche, and that other car. So we're going to use that and bring it back to our app experience. So it's if you picture that properly, it's a feedback loop that goes from your app to the ads and then back into the app. So that's sort of a pretty big uplift you have. You're able to modify your product features, and you're able to really understand what's the trigger in your app that makes your users stay. The third thing that happens, so you win because you convert an install into an actual customer. You win because you manage to populate your CRM and your knowledge about your user. And you win because, and your user actually wins because when you show them an ad, they don't actually see an ad. They see an offer for something that they've already engaged with. So the relationship that you create for your brand or for your app becomes extremely relevant and extremely strong. And ideally, you want to have a one-to-one conversation with every single user you have. That's by far I would say the strongest leverage for retargeting strategy. So I'm running a little bit out of time, so I'm just going to sort of sum up the 5 things. Again, cohort strategy really important. DCO, serving a tailored creative, reach media, engaging creative to actually make sure that the user sees it and enjoys it. And the 2 topics that are very important, sort of the way that you fill your CRM, the way you gain your knowledge, I think is really the most understated fact from that presentation. So I'm more than happy to chat with you afterwards, either at the booth or have a workshop at 4 p.m. to dig a little deeper into how to set it up a little bit more data-oriented. I don't want to drown you in numbers here. So I'm more than happy to chat with you after the talk, at the booth, or in my workshop at 4 p.m. So thanks so much for your attention, and I hope you're enjoying the conference so far.